After we had a first-time winner in Bahrain, expectations will be high going into the Abu Dhabi Grand Prix for the 2020 Formula One season finale. Welcome back to the Grid Talk podcast. Today we'll be previewing the Abu Dhabi Grand Prix. Hosting today will be me, George Howson, and joining me are sports journalist Mikael Kataja.
Hey.
F1 expert Alex Booth.
Hi.
And Formula One author Garry Sloan.
Hello.
Thank you, lads. Thank you very much for joining us on this Monday evening. We won't be going live out on Facebook this time because, as you might be able to tell by the background around me, I've moved house and I don't have any Wi-Fi, so we won't be able to do live as well. But it's available on the usual services as usual. Now, fair to say it was an eventful race in Sakhir, Mikael, but a bad one for your man Bottas. I mean, bad luck, but also he was genuinely off the pace of George Russell in Russell's first race for Mercedes.
Yeah, it definitely was one of, all things considered, probably one of Valtteri's worst performances in F1, to be honest. Yeah, I mean, you could see him already on Saturday when he was giving the interviews after the qualifying that he was definitely not happy with the distance between him and Russell, even though he did get his pole position. And then, yeah, of course, the race, I mean, he lost it at the start, really, and yeah, there was no coming back. I mean, of course, he got a little bit of saved, like his face saved with the Mercedes screw up at the pits. But yeah, we'll see if Russell is still driving the Mercedes this week, because if that's the case, then he really needs to get on that top spot on Sunday.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, there are question marks as to whether it will be Hamilton or Russell in that other Mercedes. Either way, Bottas won't have it easy, as we've seen from the last race. But I mean, we've been, this last race that we had, Alex, it was a bit of a what if scenario. What if Lewis Hamilton wasn't in Formula One? And we also saw something else we don't normally see as well. Mercedes making quite a few mistakes in the pits. I mean, it was bizarre. It's one of them where you think to yourself after, you think with hindsight, why did they pit?
Yeah, they clearly reacted to the safety car that happened. It's not the first time really that Mercedes have made mistakes with the pit stop. I mean, it happened in Monza, if I may recall, when I think it was Giovinazzi had failed in the pit entry and the pits were closed, and they brought Hamilton in. And then after the red flag, he had to take his penalty and he dropped to the back of the field, and that's what allowed Gasly to come through to win that race. And it happened again yesterday with the tyre debacle, and that ultimately cost George Russell a chance of a debut win for Mercedes. So it's almost as if Mercedes were probably a bit too complacent with themselves in the sense that they've had the advantage that they do have, and they weren't really thinking about it as much as they should have been, I suppose. But that's why it shows that you need to be on the ball all the time. So yeah, it's Toto Wolff has come out this evening saying that Hamilton is on the right track to be in the team for Abu Dhabi. I personally would like to see George Russell get another chance, because Lewis has already wrapped up the championship. It'd be nice to see George just to have another go. So, but we'll see. If it obviously Lewis won't want to see his seat being taken by some young hotshot, and George will want another opportunity. Either way, Abu Dhabi suits Mercedes really well. I think in the hybrid era, I don't think they've ever lost there as well. So it all bodes well for them. And but I personally would like to see George get another chance.
Yeah, I agree with you there. I would like to see George Russell get a chance. Obviously, it doesn't feel right having a Formula One race these days without Lewis Hamilton, but you want to see George Russell get another chance. I mean, the guy, what was he, like 6 or 7 seconds clear of Bottas before the safety car? He was cruising relatively. I still can't believe it's happened. It was so gutting seeing him go down the field that far through no fault of his own. But he kept at it. He kept his heads down. And at least he's finally got his first points in Formula One. At least that running joke has finally come to an end. But yeah. So, I mean, Garry, you might know a bit more about this than some of us, but what is the protocol with Hamilton returning to Mercedes to race in Abu Dhabi? I think he has to have a negative test by, I think it's Wednesday or something like that.
Yeah, he does. But I think the issue won't be the test. It'll be how he's feeling himself, because he was commented saying he was back on having a bounce back, and people that have suffered from COVID, when they're not asymptomatic but have got the symptoms, the bounce back's the worrying thing. You find that after 2 or 3 days after that, they have immense fatigue. So it could be he gets to Thursday, Friday, and he's just completely knackered. So he does need 2 negative tests. I personally think it'll be Russell in the car. I think there's something going on that the masterman, Total Wolff's not telling anybody. I thought it was a strange move to put Russell in the car. I mean, their argument is they wanted to see what he was made of. Well, they kind of know what he's made of. And if they put him in the car for one race and he had a disaster of a race, they weren't going to write him off anyway. And if he has a really good race and they're saying they're not going to use him for over a year, what does it really matter? I think behind the scenes, Total's boss, Olga, I mean, rumour has it he's told him he's got to cut Hamilton's pay in half, and that's what the delay in the signing of the contract's about. Total would argue that, you know, Hamilton's worth every penny to the team and worth it to Daimler in marketing terms, but Daimler's got a problem that they're cutting costs. It's hard to let go German car workers and put them on the dole, and then you're paying Hamilton, you know, 50, 60 million. So I think what's happened is that Olga said to Total, if Hamilton doesn't agree to a dramatic cut in the wages, we're going to put somebody else in the car. And Total's thought, oh, right, now we need to see how good George is. So I think there's a lot going on that we're not getting told. I don't think it was used as a bargaining tool. I think it would take Total Wolff at face value when he said it's not a bargaining tool to knock him down. I think that somebody else is pulling the strings there. I also believe Hamilton had his voodoo doll out on Sunday and was pressing a few pins into it. I think that's probably what happened. Either that or he phoned one of his buddies to take the battery out of the radio.
Yeah. I mean, there is still the issue of Hamilton's contract. It's kind of been swept under the rug because he's been, you know, he's just swept everybody aside this season, but that's still unresolved. And yeah, I mean, it is good for Mercedes that, you know, they've put Russell in the car and he has performed like that. It's extremely impressive to do that. There's not, I mean, obviously, yeah, he's tested the car. He's been with Mercedes for a long time, but to go from Williams, back of the grid effectively, to Mercedes and lead as comfortably as he did, I think that really does show his pedigree. We've said a lot on this. Oh, go on.
I think also what it demonstrated to me was the guy can handle pressure. And I was nervous and I wasn't even in the car. So, you know, goodness knows what it was a pure pressure weekend for that guy. Completely, especially when his mind might go back to crashing under the safety car, you know. So it was, you couldn't put him under a more pressure environment without much preparation. And he came it through with flying colours.
Yeah, it's amazing to see. It really is. There's loads of people that have gone into a team mid-season. I mean, even Hülkenberg, he temporarily went in mid-season. He did well for Racing Point, but to do as well as what Russell did, that's incredible to me. That really does stand out. I would love to see him for Abu Dhabi, and I'd love to see him at least get a podium if he is driving for Mercedes. I think it'd be a shame to see him back in the Williams, but you know, we'll have to see what happens with that. But yeah, I mean, from Mercedes' point of view as well, they've got nothing to lose. They can, you know, they've already won the Constructors Championship. Hamilton's won the Drivers' Championship, so there's no danger there. It would be sensible to put Russell in the car for another weekend. I don't think Hamilton would particularly mind that much, but we'll see. But yeah, moving on. So Red Bull, Mikael, I mean, it was a bad weekend, to say the least, in Sakir. Verstappen having his first lap incident. I still don't know where to stand on that, to be honest. I think Leclerc's fault, probably locked up, pushing the limits, kind of got took out a bit. Pushed the limits, of course, as Verstappen always does. But Albon again, just off the pace, and I get the feeling that his seat is probably safe, but he's not really doing himself many favors.
No, yeah, definitely not. Even though I hate to think that Albon's seat is already safe, like I really would like to think that Red Bull is actually gonna see this season out. And well, I mean, after today or after yesterday, they pretty much would have to sign Perez, I guess, to replace Albon. But I think when it comes to the incident of Verstappen on lap 1, I think he was actually kind of caught out by the fact that it was an unknown corner, I guess, that he didn't know that if you're entering it that fast, you have a gravel trap that's going to take you to the barrier. So I think he got caught by the fact that it was a different track profile than normally in Bahrain. But yeah, of course, no fault to his own, himself still. But regardless, it wasn't a good weekend from Red Bull because Albon just isn't able to really keep up with the top of the midfield at this point, I would argue. He did well in the qualifying, I guess, was pretty general again for Albon, not too high. But yeah, I want to forget for Red Bull, as there have many times been this season.
Yeah, and Verstappen will be looking to make up lost ground, probably, Alex. I mean, I think it's been confirmed that he will be third in the championship. He can't catch Bottas for I don't think he can catch Bottas for second in the championship, but he will be looking to put things right in Abu Dhabi. It's a track that he has done pretty well on. I think 2016 he did a mammoth stint on the soft tyres to get himself up to podium contention in the championship decider. So there is that, but also Albon, his seat isn't safe yet, but I think he probably will be racing for Red Bull next year. That's the kind of vibe we're getting at the moment.
Yeah, I think it seems to be the decision that Red Bull will take. I agree with Mikael, and I think a lot of people probably will. I think a lot of us would like to see Sergio Perez in the car, to be honest. I think Alex Albon's had enough chances and he's not delivered. Sorry to say, but that's the case. But Red Bull really like to stick to their own in terms of driver academy. It's been a long time since they've put someone from outside that in the car. I think the last time was probably when Matt Webber joined the team, and that was also with Renault, really. So yeah, it's not set in stone, but it's looking unlikely. Let's say that Albon will be out and Perez will be in. As for the Abu Dhabi, I think Sakir was a missed opportunity for them because Verstappen was really in touch with Bottas and Russell qualifying, and then that first corner incident wiped one of the Mercedes main challengers out. Abu Dhabi, I'm not sure. As I mentioned earlier, I think that track will just suit Mercedes down to the ground. I don't see Red Bull being able to mount much of a challenge there. I'm sorry to say. So, but the third place for Verstappen is secure in the championship. It's not what he wants, but it's the best they can really hope for at the moment. But I think they would have probably wanted to have achieved more points in the Constructors' Championship, which they would have done if they had a second driver that was capable of bringing home more points for them.
I actually quickly pulled it up.
Okay.
Verstappen still has a chance of beating Bottas to second in the championship. He's 16 points behind. But again, yeah, it's Abu Dhabi, so Bottas would still have to basically DNF and then Verstappen get on podium, or podium and fastest lap, I guess, would be enough.
Or another botched pit stop or another puncture. I mean, it's
Yeah.
possible. It's possible, but unlikely, to be fair. And I'm just looking at the constructor standings now. I've never noticed this, but Mercedes almost have double the points of Red Bull this season. 540 to 282. That's insane. I never noticed that before. That's incredible.
And remember, they get paid per point, so points make prizes.
They are getting a lot of prizes for that. Yeah. Jesus. Yeah. So speaking of incredible, Racing Point last race, Gary, I mean, a double podium for the team. That team's first win, the first win for the Silverstone outfit, I believe, since Heinz-Harald Frentzen in 1999. I mean, it's been just, fully deserved. They took advantage of it. Perez, unbelievable. I've always said the guy's quick, but to go from being took out on the first lap to winning the race in a car that's not a front runner, just unbelievable. And it's put them right in a very good position to get third in constructor standings.
Yeah, I think they're probably favourite to do it now. They've got the momentum behind them. Perez I think the last race was just great for the fans. I think we all needed it, especially when the championships decided it could be a couple of damp squids, but it was just all high drama. I mean, the heartbreak is seeing Russell and then the joy is seeing Perez. We couldn't have both. We couldn't have both of them on the top step. So I think Perez top of his game. I've said many times he doesn't need to prove to anybody he's deserving of a seat. I thought Stroll, on one hand, it's good that he's purely focused on winning, but I thought he was a bit petulant after the race. He went to the press conference and sat on his mobile phone when Perez was getting interviewed, which I know that youngsters at 20 do all the time. They can't help themselves, but he could have been a bit more magnanimous, especially since Perez is going. So I was a wee bit disappointed in his strength of character there. But then that's a racer for you, and they're only really bothered about number one. They're only really focused on winning. So on the flip side of it, that's a positive thing. I think he'll come out in the last race strong. He won't have to go into the close season thinking Perez was the hero. Stroll will be chomping at the bit to pull one over and bring the team up. The problem they've got is, will the two drivers, I think, will they obey? Will they see, will Stroll and Perez, they could take each other out. Will they look at the bigger picture and it's all about third place? I think Papa Stroll might be having a few words with his boy.
I'd be surprised if he's not. Yeah, it's huge for them. It's millions of pounds in prize money going into next year, which would be vital for development as they become Aston Martin. You mentioned about Perez doing well this season. The guy's in fourth in the driver's standings and he missed 2 races, let's not forget, for coronavirus. Incredibly impressive. If you just look at his results, it's so consistent. It's unbelievable, yeah, and fully deserved. I'm so happy he's won a race at last. I think think he was one of the drivers with the most podiums without a win. I think Heidfeld holds the record, but Perez was close to it. But yeah, fully deserved
It
for him.
reminded me of, unfortunately, I'm old enough to remember when John Alesi was in the same position, went years and years, and then he won his first race in Canada, his first and only race. But it was a similar sort of feeling. Great to see somebody that's been at the coalface all those years actually making it in the end. Bittersweet that it might be his last time in Formula One.
I think that is a record now, with 190 races before the first win. That's a new record, actually.
Really, is it?
Yeah, Mark Webber was the previous one. It was, I think he had 130.
Wow.
And also, George, it was more recently than that, the Silverstone's first win. Last win. It was 2003.
Oh, Brazil. How could I forget about that manic race? Yeah. Back in the days of Jordan. Yeah, I forgot about that. Well done. That's why Alex is the F1 expert. He knows these things. He corrects me on them. But yeah, so Racing Point looking good for third in the Constructors' Championship, but still work to be done, Mikael. They're only 10 points ahead of McLaren, and McLaren, I mean, it wasn't too bad of a day for them in Sakir in all, usually, but the fact that Renault and Racing Point scored as many points as they did, as they got those podiums, it's put them in the back foot a bit, and they're going to have to perform in Yas Marina to get that third place.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it was a good enough day for, well, I mean, Norris also being hindered with the penalty, so starting at 20, I think didn't really know what to expect. So for him to score points, that was a good job, and Sainz on a normal day to be almost on the podium would be great. It's just a shame for them, or from their point of view, that you ended up having both racing points on the podium. And Abu Dhabi isn't really a track that has suited them well. It has in previous years. Definitely not as well as Racing Point, I would feel, considering Mercedes's dominance on the track and everything. I think the pink cars would be pretty close to the top four in this week. So yeah, it's difficult to see if it's a regular race with not much action that McLaren would score 10 points or more than 10 points more than Racing Point. But yeah, they're still in the game. They'll come with a fighting spirit, but yeah, it's definitely advantage to Racing Point.
Yeah, definitely advantage to Racing Point. McLaren with a possibility, definitely. And also a possibility, Alex, if you have another crazy race, is Renault. I mean, second and fifth for them. Ocon's first podium. Renault's best result for, I don't even know, a very long time. 2010 probably getting that second place. So they've got a chance as well. I mean, I think Abu Dhabi will probably suit their card down to the ground as well. I mean, they seem pretty good at Bahrain. So
yeah, they've had a recent upsurge in form. Ricardo's been on the podium a couple of times, and Ocon got the good result the weekend. And Ricardo was in the running until he lost out in the pit stops. Really, that dropped him further back. He could have potentially been on the podium given what happened later on with the Mercedes. I think I'm not expecting Renault to really upset the apple cart too much in terms of, unless, as you mentioned, it's another crazy race. I'm thinking Renault will probably be more towards fifth, sixth. That's probably the highest that they can really hope for. Ocon, though, riding high after his maiden podium, he certainly didn't think that he'd be getting that at the weekend before, but it'll be a major confidence for him. And Ricciardo will want a bit of fond farewell to Renault after not such a good 2019, but a much better 2020. And he's leaving under nice circumstances as well. I think under Red Bull, he couldn't really wait to get out. But at Renault, it's been quite a decent ride for him this year. They hold him in high regard, and I think he does them as well. And he'll just be over for a nice bye-bye.
yeah, I mean, some people have been saying that potentially Ricardo might end up regretting the move to McLaren. I don't think he will. I think both teams have got the chances, especially McLaren getting Mercedes engines, I think, from next year. So both teams on the up, definitely. Renault becoming Alpine next year. Yeah, I'm just going to take a little straw poll from you guys. Who do you think will get third in the Constructors' Championship? I'm going to stick my neck out as a bit of a McLaren fan. I'm going to go with McLaren, but I think with my head, I'd say Racing Point, to be honest. Mikael, who would you back for third in the Constructors' Championship?
Yeah, I would have to still go with Racing Point, just because if both of their cars finish and it's a pretty normal race, then I really don't see McLaren or even Renault, or McLaren and definitely not Renault, catching up to them. So yeah, I would go with Racing Point.
Alex?
Yeah, I'll go with Racing Point as well. I still think that their car will be much stronger around Abu Dhabi. Perez is if he's as consistent as ever, then should bring up some points. If Stroll keeps it on the road and in the points, then they can't really lose it. I believe.
Fair enough, Gary.
Yeah, I think Racing Points, it's theirs to lose. I think everything's in their favour, so I think they'll do it. I don't think they'll fall at this hurdle now. Come too far. Last race is Racing Point as well. Why would you not want to go out on a high, finish that chapter off before they lead to the promised land that is Aston Martin?
Yep. So we'll see what happens with that. Racing Point the favourites, but a team that won't be featuring this midfield battle though is Ferrari, Gary. I mean, to be fair, Leclerc though, he has got a chance of upsetting the odds. I mean, he had a ridiculous qualifying in Sakira. I still can't believe he pulled that lap out. So if he qualifies the car up high in Abu Dhabi, there's every chance he could get a good points haul for Ferrari.
Yeah, and I hope he learns. I mean, he did have an extraordinary lap in qualifying, put him on the second row, and then he's through all the way to the first corner. He's not a hothead, I think, and he's not inexperienced as such, but he's had more than his fair share of tangles. So he needs to really go and get his head straight. So he could do well, and I think he'll want to make amends. As for Vettel, I just think he probably just cannot wait. I mean, I know he had that little resurgence, but Benotti's back on the pit wall now, so that's some goosed. So I think they'll do okay. Is about the best. They've got nothing really to lose, but they've got nothing really to win either. They'll just be wanting to put the one in the bag and contractually turn up and put their cars around the circuit and then go home.
Yeah, I echo that. I think Vettel as well. Yeah, he does seem just to be trundling around right now, just waiting for his contract to end so he can move to Aston Martin next year. For lack of a better phrase, I think he's just given up with Ferrari, and I think they gave up with him quite some time ago as well. But yeah, now a team that were threatening to usurp Ferrari, but the gap now is realistically too big. AlphaTauri, Mikael, and they have had a very good year. Obviously, they did win the race, but in Italy, but they have been very consistent on the whole. And I think Daniel Kvyat as well. He's really having a late resurgence this season. But I think his fate has probably already been decided for next year. I think it's going to be Yuki Tsunoda, the Japanese driver, in that second seat next year.
Yeah, I mean, Tsunoda almost pretty much confirmed that after the second race in F2 this weekend, saying that he will be in F1 next year, and then taking it back, and it's like, oh well, it's Red Bull's call to make. So I would imagine that he put his name on the paper on Saturday after the win and getting his final super license points from that. And I mean, finishing third in the championship also guaranteed him that. So Tsunoda it is in the second seat. But I mean, Kvyat is still driving for his career. He might be outside of F1, but he can still jump to many racing series. I don't see him going to IndyCar too soon, maybe. But I mean, there's a lot of still good places to drive for, even if it's outside of F1. So he's definitely driving for to have a good CV for next year. And I mean, when it comes to Gasly, I mean, he's been trying to prove Red Bull wrong all season. In my opinion, has been successful at it. But again, I think he just wants to cap the year off with a good result, as the entire team for AlphaTauri. So we'll see. I don't know if they're gonna make it too high up the points in Abu Dhabi. I mean, it's not really a track that necessarily would suit them, I guess. But okay, they did surprise me a bit in last week. So yeah, we'll see. It'll be Kvyat's last race. That's gonna be my wild assumption.
Yeah, I think it probably will be too. And I'd feel a bit hard done by if I was him still. I think he's been solid, but the problem is he's not the youngest driver anymore, and he's got a teammate in Gasly. It's not all by any stretch, but you know what Red Bull are like for promoting the young drivers. I mean, that's what it's like these days for them. But I hope he finds a good place to race outside of F1. Where it'll be, I don't know, maybe endurance cars, maybe Formula E, something like that. Who knows? But yeah, moving on. So the other Alfa Romeo, Alex, and it's been a bit of a dismal year, to say the least, for them. I think they'll be just looking forward to maybe testing some new parts on the car, maybe, preparing for next year. Same drivers next year, of course, but hopefully, I mean, the thing is with them as well is that it's hard to really see how they can get in the points at this rate. You know, if they were going to get in the points in the race, it would have been secure with how crazy it was, but they didn't even get close.
Both Bahrain races were pretty poor for Alfa Romeo, and Kimi Räikkönen had a couple of adventures in the first corner in both races. Giovinazzi never really looked on the pace either. Yeah, it has been a barren season for Alfa Romeo, and they really need to go back to the drawing board and produce a better car next year. They've got a lot of continuity with the same drivers, but I think it's probably just going to be another turn up and see how it goes for them. And you know, they might be able to sneak a point, but it's highly unlikely. Yeah, suppose the only form of consolation for them is that there's no chance of, well, there's very little chance of Haas beating them. So they win the title of the best Ferrari customer team.
Yeah, they've got that at least. You know, it's a yawning chasm up to AlphaTauri. I mean, they got 103 points. Alfa Romeo got 8, but 5 points between Alfa Romeo and Haas probably means that Alfa Romeo should be safe. I mean, Haas would have to triple their points effectively for the year in Abu Dhabi. I don't see really that happening really. But speaking of Haas, Gary, I mean, obviously it's been confirmed that Romain Grosjean won't be taking this final race. Pietro Fittipaldi will be in the second Haas beside Kevin Magnussen. I mean, it's sad for Grosjean though. I mean, a lot of us have been saying he doesn't deserve to be in F1. He's too slow, this and that and the other. But none of us have really, you know, we all recognise that he's a really good guy and we will miss him. We will miss him. I will honestly miss him. If you saw the interview with him before Sakir we did with Martin Brundle for Sky, I feel that was really good. Just him talking about how he got out of the car. Really inspirational stuff.
Yeah, I mean, I think he's box office, and that's what Formula One needs. Maybe for the wrong reasons, you know, some of these moves and crashes and whatever. But I think, you know, I mean, there's been lots of criticism, and he has caused lots of crashes and whatever. But as I say, it spices things up. So fair enough. Just a bit he has got to pick up the bill every time he totals one of their cars. I think he's come out of the whole accident thing as a genuinely nice guy. We've got to remember there's a lot with the Grand Prix Drivers Association. He's the leading figure there. And so I think he probably commands more respect than Joe Public thinks he does within the Formula One community. And I'd be sad to see him go, but I do think his time was up, and I do think that it was time to move on. I think it's a nice gesture. He wants to have 20 laps somewhere in January or February. And I think he said he'll bug every team on the grid till one of them gives him the shot. And Toto Wolff's already come forward and says that Mercedes, if Haas or one of the teams he drove for before don't do it, Mercedes will step up and fulfill his wishes, which I thought was quite a nice touch. Not so much for the hard-nosed Germans to show their compassion. So there we go.
Fair enough. I think he's Austrian, I think, Toto Wolff, isn't he? But yeah, I know what you mean.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah, no,
I just meant the team. I just meant the team in general. The whole team will have to go off and give them the backing. But I thought it was a nice gesture. I think fair play to them. They deserve the credit for it. But you would hope somebody like Haas would step forward, and mind you, they might be worried about letting them loose in one of these cars again. So
he has been there since the start. He has been there for all 5 seasons of Haas F1's career. So he's one of the longest serving people at the team effectively. So yeah, a new era for them effectively. Mazepin and Mick Schumacher coming in. So all rookies for them next year. I mean, again, like Alfa Romeo and Mikael, it's hard to see Haas really doing much. I mean, but it was refreshing to see Pietro Fittipaldi in the car. He did a good job. The team seemed impressed with him. Maybe at some point in the future we could see him get an F1 drive full time.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, it was pretty clear from early on that he was there to just get the experience. It doesn't matter if you come last to the checkered flag, just get all the laps in, which he did. So good on him on that. And he didn't make any real damaging mistakes, unlike Aitken. Not saying that it was a massive one, but I do mean it was quite an embarrassing one for him to go off like that in the final corner. So Fittipaldi did well. I mean, I'm not convinced that he's fast enough to be taking that seat. I think both Schumacher and Mazepin will have Mazepin not necessarily, but will have long careers in F1. Mazepin has the speed for it, but I don't know if he has the temperament to stay. I don't know how long Gunther is gonna be watching at Mazepin. Of course, the amount of money that he brings is probably gonna cool the team management nerves a bit, but it's going to be an interesting pairing for next season, definitely. Kind of too bad that they're in the one of the slowest cars, so we won't be seeing them really tangle with anyone except themselves and the Alphas and Williamses probably. But yeah, Fittipaldi did good. I'm expecting that he'll do pretty similar in Abu Dhabi. Of course, great to see a Brazilian on the grid again.
Yeah, exactly. It's been a few years, hasn't it? Felipe Massa was the last one.
Yeah, since Massa
2017.
retired, yeah.
Yeah, it's weird not having a Brazilian on the grid. It's strange. Brazilian motorsport just seems to have disappeared, really. I think Drugovic is the only other guy coming up through F2 that I can think of from Brazil. So yeah. So moving on, final team: Williams, Alex, and what else is to say? I mean, it's a pointless season for them, and it's hard to see that really changing, especially obviously if George Russell is in the Mercedes again, as we think he probably might be this weekend. But encouraging for them that they have a good reserve driver in Jack Aitken. I mean, yes, he made the mistake in the race, but other than that, I thought he had a decent weekend. He was looking like he was going to beat Latifi in qualifying as well.
Yeah, he was on a hiding to nothing really, Jack Aitken. It came a bit out of the blue as his Formula One debut. It hurts me to say that Williams are on the brink of going pointless for the first time since, well, certainly since Frank Williams and Patrick had started building their own cars. It's unlikely that's going to change. It could happen, but it's unlikely. As you mentioned, Russell not being in the car is a major disadvantage for them. No disrespect to Nicholas Latifi. I think he's been relatively solid, to be fair to him. I think he got a bit of criticism this season to start that he was there purely for his funding rather than his ability, although he did finish second in Formula 2 last year. Jack Aitken, talented driver. I was watching him last year actually in Formula 2 at Silverstone live, winning the race, so his pedigree. Yeah, it was unfortunate his mistake in the race here, but he'll learn from that. And if he gets more mileage on the clock in Abu Dhabi, that's good for him. But I can't see them doing much more than bringing up the numbers at the rear of the field. It's a shame to say yet again that will be the case.
Yeah, afraid so. It's looking very likely like that. But let's just hope, like Haas, like Alfa Romeo, they have a better 2021. That's all we can really hope for at this point for them. It is very sad to see them at the back like that. It's something we've become used to in recent seasons.
I think it's so sad though, because Williams, the points table tells the whole story, and obviously they haven't got a point in 2019. They got one, but they're a lot faster than they were last year. Last year they were absolutely dreadful, and they got that lucky point in that crazy Hockenheim race. At least this year, Russell's gone into Q2 many times, and they're not as far off the back of the field. It's just a shame they haven't got the point that they really crave.
Yeah, that's the thing. They have a much quicker car than last year, relatively. They have improved massively. I think on average they're like 3-4 seconds a lap faster than last year. So huge strides been made. Just nothing to show for it at the moment. It's very sad. But they do have investment from, I think, Dorian, whatever it's called. So there is that new ownership. So hopefully next year is a new beginning. They do have the Mercedes engine in the back of the car too. That won't hurt them. And they will most likely have George Russell back in the car as well next year. But again, don't know for sure. Speaking of don't know for sure, let's go for our predictions. I'm going to say for the top three, I'm going to say, it depends who you think is going to race, but I'm going to say George Russell, he's going to be in the Mercedes, he's going to win. I'm just putting it out there. I'm going to go Valtteri Bottas second, and third, probably going to be Max Verstappen, isn't it? Not Hambot there, but Russ bot there. That's the new temporary one. Mikael, what's your top three prediction?
I don't know. Yeah, again, I mean, it doesn't really depend, I guess. Just for the interest of being a bit different, I'll go for Valtteri to take the final win of the season. It's a better track for him historically than what Bahrain has been. And then Russell or Hamilton, whichever one is in the car, would be second, and I'll put Verstappen on third as well. I don't think there's going to be much of an upset in the race, apart from who wins it. Again, probably through white and blue tinted glasses, but we'll see. We'll see if Bottas is able to come back.
He has won there before. I think he won in 2017, didn't he? So it's a decent track for him. He's got a chance, definitely. Alex, what's your top three prediction?
If I can be allowed to make two, because mine's based on who's driving the Mercedes, really. If Russell's in the car, I'm going to go with Russell and Bottas, first and second. third, I think I've just got a sneaking suspicion that Max Verstappen, it'll just sum up his season. I've got a funny feeling that he's going to retire from that race. I don't know, probably with a mechanical failure, which has happened a few times. I'm going to go with Perez third, actually. But if Hamilton's in the car, I'm going to go with Bottas first, Hamilton second. I just think Bottas is under pressure with Russell in the car.
Yeah. See that it'd be great to see Perez as well on what could be his curtain call in F1, getting a podium. I can't believe he doesn't have a contract. It's just insane to me that someone could do so well and not get a contract. And he's got financial backing as well. It's not even a question about that. It's insane. It just defies logic. Gary, what's your podium prediction?
Well, I don't think Bottas will be on the podium. I think he'll have a nightmare. He'll crash out, he'll go in the wrong tyres. The tide's against him. And I think the harder he tries, the worse it'll be. So I don't think he'll be on the podium. I think if Hamilton's back in the car, I think he'll struggle. I think they're probably underestimating the illness. And I think he'll be a bit out of sorts. And he'll still come strong, second or third probably. I'd go for Verstappen. I'm not sure about what will happen if Russell's back. If Russell's back, I think he'll be on the podium. Where, I'm not quite sure. I would fancy my chances with Verstappen. I know the track probably favours Mercedes, but Verstappen, boys, he got a burning inside him that he must just be cracking up now with what's happened his last few races, especially at the weekend there. I thought it was a bit hypocritical of him blaming Leclerc for being aggressive. I mean, what goes round comes round. But that's what I would say. I would probably say Verstappen, Russell, or Hamilton. And in third place, fancy one of the racing points, probably Perez.
Fair enough. Different podium predictions. I'm sure one of us will be somewhere near what actually happens with that.
One of us will be a Mercedes and one of us will be a Williams.
I'm probably going to be the Williams here. My predictions are usually bad. I know nothing about Formula One.
George, we've not done the wild card.
Oh, the bold prediction. How can I forget the bold prediction? It's been that long since I've done one. Oh, bold prediction.
That bold prediction is George will forget. The bold prediction.
That's not a bold prediction. Bold prediction. It is a fairly bold prediction. I'm going to go for Kimi Räikkönen to score. Well, I'm going to say Kimi Räikkönen for 9th or higher in this last race of the last season. I don't expect it to happen, but it's bold prediction nevertheless. Mikael?
Wow. I don't know. This really goes against the entire discussion of it's not going to be an exciting race probably in Abu Dhabi after Sakir, but yeah, why not? I'll give I guess Kevin Magnussen, as I said that Fittipaldi probably won't do too spectacularly. I'll give Magnussen 2 points. We'll see. I would go for 10th or 9th probably.
K-Mag in the points. Alex, what's yours?
I was kind of touching on what Mikael said there. I think my bold prediction is we'll have an interesting race in Abu Dhabi.
Nah, come on.
It's one of the worst circuits on the calendar. I loathe hate.
Yeah.
I really do. Bold prediction. That's a tough one actually. I think Alex Albon probably to get a podium and silence critics. I think.
So going against your own podium prediction, just edging you. This is what we always do. We always edge our bets. We go against our own predictions. Garry, what's your bold prediction? I'm expecting a good one here. You remembered.
I think Mercedes will fly a few quick fit guys across for the pits, helping for the tyre change. I think I'll be consistent, which is Albon for the top spot. I think he'll win the race.
Wow. I mean,
we've seen it for a while now, but the racing gods can be funny.
They can be. I mean, we had a double racing point podium last race, so anything can happen. You never know. I mean, that would silence a lot of his critics. To be fair, that would do.
Actually, I've just had a thought. What about Perez to take back-to-back wins? That would be pretty bold as well.
Yeah.
London buses for wins. Wait, it's 190 races for a win, and 2 come at once.
And wins 2 in the space of a week.
And then still doesn't have a seat for next year.
Yes.
A bit like buses, you wait for ages and then 2 come along at the same time.
Mm-hmm. Literally like that. Still no contract for him at the moment. Red Bull, for me, it's a no-brainer for Red Bull, but obviously they've got Thai investors, haven't they? So that's why
That's what's going
complicated for them.
on. There's something behind the scenes we're not getting told. I mean, if you take Red Bull's Modus Operandus album, would have been chopped halfway through the season, and it's the Thai ownership that's playing hardball with Macetic, who's got the final say. So there's something going on there we don't know. I suspect that they might sign him again for next year, but they might chop him after 4 or 5 races. And if Perez has not got a seat, they'll bring Perez in. Perez will be to have the good coat his oven ready. So I think that could be the compromise. I think if they were going to have chopped him, they would have chopped him. So it's 50-50. It's hard to call. There's something going on that we're not getting told, because it's definitely why, if you look at it logically, why has he still got that seat? It just doesn't stack up.
Knowing Red Bull, though, I think if they were to re-sign Albon, but then drop him into next year, they'd probably, if Yuki Tsunoda did really well, they'd probably put him in straight away, which is what they did with Albon pretty much in 2019. It just seems such a Red Bull thing to do. They bring the drivers in too soon, and they're like lambs to the slaughter, really.
I don't think Albon said he wouldn't go back the way. So if they did the swap, last season, he said he wouldn't go back the way. But I mean, it could be Hobson's choice for him. I think that's a big thing to walk away from. But it does seem to be, once you go back the way, you're not coming back up again. But I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah, I think partly what saved Albon this season is the fact that there's 2 former Red Bull drivers at AlphaTauri. I feel like if Tsunoda, for example, was in the team this season, they would have put him in by now. But they want to save face. They don't want to look like they made a bad decision by demoting Gasly or Kvyat.
Gasly's done something to upset somebody in the Red Bull hierarchy, whether it's Marco or Horner. We still haven't got to the bottom of it. I still think it's because he was overheard telling Kvyat that Posh Spice was his favourite Spice Girl. That's what done the guy. That's what done him.
Oh man! And on that note, so yes, we are now broadcasting this show normally live on Facebook. So like the F1 Chronicle on Facebook to see the show early. We're now available on Amazon Music as well as YouTube, Spotify, Google Podcasts, Apple Music, Omni Studio, and Pocket Cast. Just search for the F1 Grid Talk and all those to find us. Got a huge back catalogue of shows, over 80 episodes now. That has really ballooned up. And this isn't just previews and qualifying analysis and race reviews. It's also documentary style pieces like we did for Tiregate, the 1994 Benetton season, and Ayrton Senna. Got a subreddit as well. Just search for the F1 Grid Talk on there for more conversation to do with the show. Go to our Patreon as well if you want to donate to better mics, lights, and recording equipment. Just search for F1 Grid Talk on there. And we'll be back on Saturday to analyse qualifying from Abu Dhabi. Thank you very much for joining us, lads. I really do appreciate it.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you.
And yeah, we'll be back on Saturday. And until then, we'll see you next time. Goodbye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.